top.
It's so organised.
Sad, isn't it? Very sad. Must have, just quick up, because I absolutely love
What's this? This is...
Walter Jackson, Suddenly I'm All Alone.
Okay, right, okay.
It's just heart-rending stuff.
God, I love this sort of stuff, yeah.
But his voice, it's written by Van McCoy as well, so it's got good credence. I think he's a unique vocalist. I don't know anybody else. And of course he did lots of, should we call it MOR stuff, middle of the road stuff, you know. He was really a balancer, but he's just one of those evocative singers who's got the most amazing voices.
Yeah, it's just like Chuck Jackson, you know, they've got that one of a kind voice, and kind of almost every song that they've done, just because of their voice, you can just say they are...
Well, Chuck Jackson's been to the UK quite a lot as well. I remember DJing at Static, and he came up to the decks, and I was playing out the UK. I haven't got the UK record for playing them. And he said, man, I haven't seen one of those before. So that was like my rubber stamp of acceptance of Chuck Jackson's music. That would have been, what, 2010, I think.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But little things like that, you think, oh, do you know what, it's all worthwhile, isn't it?
Oh, that's stuff like that makes everything worthwhile.
Yeah, I don't need anyone to tell me anything, I just had that.
Yeah, oh, that's lovely.
But that's, I mean, he's just got one of those voices. He could sing the phone book as far as I'm concerned.
Sing the phone book. Oh, that's brilliant.
This was obviously by done by the Walker Brothers. They had the hit in this country, but I'm still not sure who did the original. Whether it was him, whether it was Jimmy Radcliffe. I can't remember.
This reminds me of Gladys Knight giving out that introduction.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it's exactly the same as Giving Out.
She was on in. You went to go see her in Birmingham.
We saw her in Birmingham, and she was epic.
She's amazing. Oh, I really wanted to go and see her in, where was it? Bournemouth. She was in Bournemouth the night of Go-Go Children. And I really wanted to go and see her, but I kind of left it too late to organise it, and there was no one to go with, and the train was, you know, it's a pain in the ass to get to Bournemouth.
But I'm so hideously biased when it comes to Gladys Knight, because, you know, we've all got heroes. The Temps were my male group, and Gladys was my female. But to see somebody who's 71 who can still hold a note and can drive a grown man to tears, not once.
Did you cry?
Oh, I've forgotten what I called it. Was it? I had facial teardrops. I was all over the place.
Oh, man.
She was brilliant.
That's so great.
I'm holding Claire's hand, and she could feel me going next to her. So a box of Kleenex later, and but that's what soul music does to you.
Exactly.
I can't describe it.
She's just got the most incredible voice. I can completely understand if you started crying.
Well, I first saw her, I think, in 1975 in London, and I think she's better this time. I think she's much more rounded, you know. She's just different.
Yeah, well, she's got, what, another 20 years of experience and more soul.
39 years of experience. You'd give 20 years anyway.
Oh, this is fantastic.
That's the boy Jackson's work, you know. This is Walter at his best, in my humble opinion. It's fairly deep. I just love that deep. It's so moody and so, you know, heartbreak. It completely just screams heartbreak, doesn't it? It does, yeah. And you see, I get killed because I like the slow and low, the sweet and deep, you know, whatever you want to call it. I've always liked it, you know. I've always, ever since the early days of me getting into music, which was through the Motown, and I love the slow stuff that the Temps were putting out, or Smokey was putting out. You know, I preferred those to the pop things perhaps that the Supremes were doing, or the Tops were doing. But this for me was, you know, what it was all about. I guess I was lucky because I had the northern, I had the jazz funk, you had sort of the deep stuff and the sweet stuff.
So you've been into this almost like from kind of day one, really? Because this is something that's kind of become really popular on the soul scene, probably not for long, really.
I'd say a lot of it is down to people getting old and not being able to dance. But that's another story. But no, there's a weekender, very small, very intimate, in Yarmouth called Soul Essence.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that, yeah.
Soul Essence has been the daddy for me since I first went in 1996, I think.
So it's been going for...
Yeah, how good do I feel now? Yeah, it's been going since 93 it started. Started by a guy called Rod Dearlove and Gavin Page and Bob Cosby. And it was playing modern stuff with a northern... Rod Dearlove was really the founder of crossover. He started the genre, to be honest, and Soul Essence was piggybacked off that. But in the back room, it's like this. There's sofas. There is a decks here, so you're that close to the sofas. It is the most intimidating place.
The first Seriously Soulful that you did, they had sofas and everything.
Yeah,
that was kind of like the first experience I had of going to a night where it was just kind of, you know, stuff like this, you know, slow.
Yeah, it
was such an intimate gig kind of thing.
It's a room where you go, you sit, you take a beer, you shut up, you listen to the music, you applaud.
Stroke your chin.
You obviously stroke your chin, obviously. But 2000 and I think 12, a guy called Richard Caton came over, and Richard Caton was a gentleman of the highest order, and he sang a record in that back room, and it was one of the most moving and memorable soul experiences I've ever had. You know, absolutely brilliant. I can't explain it. And the back room, the Jim Ray Lounge at Soul Essence, is my idea of heaven, most people's idea of hell. Certainly Claire will tell you that. She looks in there.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing because it's different. It's unique.
Yeah, I love it when you go to a place and it just kind of like blows you away because it's not what you expected, and that's what places like the 100 Club did to me. You know, I was going to these kind of oldie all-nighters, and then suddenly I went to this 100 Club and I was just like, what? I've never heard any of this stuff before. You know.
Well, you've got people like Butch who is still, you know, by far and away the best DJ because he's still, you know, finding stuff.
Fantastic.
Goodness only knows when.
I know, and he still continues to find stuff. You know, you'd think that everyone would have rinsed everything, but you know, he still managed to find.
You say that the world's a big place.
It is. It is.
I'll tell you a great story that Mark Houghton, a good friend of mine, Mark Houghton and I were over in the Carolinas, 2008, and we bumped into a gentleman called Lou Stanley, and Lou Stanley's been a big dealer over the years, and he said, "Oh, come on, guys, you come out to my house, and we'll go through some records." So Mark and I went out there, and we walked into it's very rustic. It was a lovely house in the middle of the sticks, and you walked through the kitchen and you walked into the front room, and there was a large table about 2.5 meters in diameter, piled with records, just piles
I bet that
of
was
records.
absolute heaven.
No, he said that was all the tosh, that was all the stuff he was getting rid of, wasn't interested in it at all. So we sat down and he brought out box after box out of stuff, and when we were there, he took a phone call from Butch, so he's still supplying Butch with stuff. And the Carolinas is still a great source of stuff for whatever reason.
Did you find any gems?
Yeah. Mark and I managed to pull a few. Sadly, we didn't take that sort of $10,000 that we should have taken with us. You know, we took a few, and he wasn't interested really in the slower stuff and the mid-tempo stuff.
Okay.
He really couldn't sell that. There's not a market for that in the States. The only market there is for that is the doo-wop stuff, which is huge.
Yeah, the big Chicano scene.
Well, no, doo-wop was like the street corner stuff from the late 50s.
Okay.
Kind of the Chicano brown-eyed stuff that they do now is very different. That's a West Coast thing.
Oh, okay, right.
This was very much an East Coast thing. This was Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, cities like that, where the guys literally used to sing, you know, stand underneath the lamps and sing. So Lou was into stuff like that as well, but no, he's still a big dealer and he still turns up stuff. So that was interesting. You know, The Tempest, Someday. The guy that sings at Hazel Martin, he was the only black guy in the group. All the others were white.
Yeah, I did notice that because there's a picture of them by the lake, and I always wondered that.
Yeah, no, Hazel Martin, he was the black guy. All the others were white guys. The way it was. But you know, you look at all the nonsense going on over there now, and it's sad because it's always been a multicultural, multiracial society out there in the Carolinas.
Yeah.
Well, a guy called Rod Dearlove from Hull, or he was a Hull. He he produced the best soul magazine ever, and he was an absolute fanatic. And at its peak, he was doing 4 of these pretty much on his own with a few people every year, and it's just jammed. It's absolutely packed, and I pulled that one out because
crossover soul special.
Well, no, we'd been to see Joe Armstead at Christmas.
Okay.
We went to see her in New York. See, I missed out on something, and the more I listened to these, the more I enjoyed them. I mean, there's some stunning records.
Have you got any of them, or have you collected any of them?
I've pretty much got all of those.
Was it kind of a basis for your wants list?
It's a basis for a wants list, yeah, but it was also a basis for records to listen to. I mean, I think I've got that pulled out actually. Emmanuel Lasky. He was a guy out of Detroit that did several things on the likes of Thelma and labels like that, Wild Juice, I'm sure. But Rod started to promote. He ran a gig called the Canal Tavern at Thorn in Doncaster, and this was, if you like, the birthplace. Tim Brown used to DJ with him, and a couple of other people. Arthur Fenn was always a regular there. Brian Gouch, and loads of really special people were there, and people from the south. Steve Hobbs, who's obviously a big name. He used to DJ there. Who perhaps moved on, you know, from their scenes. They're not necessarily into the soul as they were then.
Yeah, well, taste changes, doesn't it?
Bob Jeffries, a lovely guy from Scotland, another one who was playing and stuff like this. So it was a melting pot. It was a new scene, you know, and a lot of these records hadn't been played. They were just
a lot of them are all still new to me, even the stuff that is, you know, people consider really old now.
They were a little bit slow at the time. So you think the likes of Stafford might, but the turnover in records in Stafford was ridiculous. It was like at Wigan. I mean, I used to go to Wigan every month. Did that for 2 years, and the turnover in records was phenomenal.
Yeah,
and it was just you know, you'd possibly hear the same record 3 or 4 times that you'd heard a month ago. The same with Blackpool. Blackpool was a bit different. Blackpool was obviously slightly more up tempo, slightly more disco. But the last hour, which is what I used to love, they used to play all these obscure things, and a lot of them have never turned up in any volume at all. But stuff for me, this kind of sums up what I like. A mid-tempo record, the great soulful vocal, and the guy's pouring his heart out. You know, he smokes 400 fags a day and drinks a bottle of Jack Daniels. You can tell, can't you?
Yeah, exactly.
It's there. But this is the essence of really what Ben and I think with Seriously Soulful, is try and promote something that perhaps a little bit underplayed.
Yeah, just stuff like this in general doesn't get played because it's slow. A lot of people do want that 100 mph on a Saturday.
It's a dancer scene. And that's again, I think, what's also come out maybe the last 4 or 5 years. There's a dance scene.
Yes, it's very much a dance scene. A lot of people do out just, you know, because they want to dance. And
when I went, it was a dance scene. I bought my pressings. You know, I went to the balcony at Wigan. I saw Steve Connor used to run Russ's thing, and you'd pay your money, you'd buy your pressings, because it's the only way you get the record. And I didn't care. I wasn't bothered then so much about having originals. You know, 74, 75. It was about the sound.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because you'd go there, you'd set your tape up on the balcony, you hang the microphone over the edge of the balcony. You'd leave it on, you'd put a 120 tape on, which was awful because it always used to break.
Well, that was the only way to listen to records, wasn't it? I mean, my generation, we've got YouTube and we've got the internet. We can just get up a record just like that, just by typing in the lyrics that we remember.
Absolutely.
And we can find it, whereas, you know, that technology didn't exist back when Wigan was alive and Stafford and everything.
No, because you didn't have the
tapes,
internet. It was about I mean, tape swapper circuit was massive. I mean, Eddie was one of the main.
He told me all about it.
He was massive on that. Mark Binsey Taylor, obviously Randy was one as well. That's where I used to get my tapes from. He'd do your tapes, and he'd always send a little letter along with it as well, giving you his thoughts on the records and why you should buy it. And
I know it's so great. My mum's got loads of tapes that I've been kind of digging through, and you know they come with like all handwritten track lists.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just the most beautiful thing that you see. You know, you open it up and you know someone spent so much time on this, and
there was a wonderful guy.
It's almost got soul in itself.
There was a wonderful guy, and he's still around now, called Gary Cape, who used to run a business records called Black Grape. And Gary would send you a record, and in the corner there'd be a little label on it, and he'd write about the record. So you'd have 3 or 4 lines of stuff about the record.
Oh.
Gary was top man, and he was involved with John Anderson doing the Grapevine stuff. The second lot.
Okay, right.
The first lot was Richard Serling, but the second lot he did with Gary, and Gary's very, very knowledgeable about the Southern Soul scene. And he's a lovely guy.
Did you ever spend any time on the Southern Soul scene?
Yeah, as in what, the jazz funk or I did.
Well,
Yeah.
you said that you spent time on the jazz funk. I mean, like, tell me. I don't really know a lot about that kind of.
Obviously, that I started going out, I guess, properly in 1972. I'd moved down to Sussex, and as far as I was concerned, it was hell on earth. There was nothing going on. I met a lad at school whose 2 key interests were football and music, and I thought, happy days. So we started going out together, and we went to Bognor Regis, the centre of the world. Mm-hmm. And there was a club over there called the Rex, and the Rex Ballroom was an old roller skating Kursaal, and it was magnificent. It was a wonderful arched dome, had a fantastic wooden sprung floor.
I was going to say, if it was used for kind of rollerblading and stuff,
it was
really
wonderful,
smooth and nice.
and it had a huge long bar, and that was our destination, generally on a Friday and a Saturday night. And there was a guy who used to come in on a Saturday, and you play all that, all the soul stuff, all the the chart stuff. He would always play 3 slightly different off-the-wall records, and I remember to this day the first time I ever heard The Right Track, Betty Butler, and I always say that's the record that changed my life, because I thought, what on earth is this? It's not Motown, it's not Philly, what's this all about? So I went up and asked him, and he said, this is from Chicago, it's by a guy called Billy Butler, and it's called The Right Track. And that's where my sort of inquisitive nature took me. That's the path I started down, then. And he would play, say, 3 slightly different records off the wall, and that was it. And I'd always ask him each week, just give us a list of those 3 records you played. And I started digging. And that was my in to Northern Soul, if you like. I was reading Blues and Soul, which was obviously the Bible then. That came out every 2 weeks. Yeah. Just to pick that up from the bus station in Chichester, every 2 weeks. Couldn't wait. That used to list the top 100 US records in the back.
Okay.
And every Saturday night there was a guy called, I think it was Dave Simons on Radio 1, who used to do the Soul Show. But what he used to do is each week he'd call up, WFON, Memphis, and they'd say, hi, this is so and so, and they play 3 of their top 10 records. So that was slightly more obscure. So I always tick off the back of Blues and Soul what I'd heard.
Right.
And in 1973 I started working up in London. So I was going up to London every day. I found 2 great places, Paul for records, which was great for albums, and this oasis called Contempo, which is obviously where Blues and Soul emanates from. Okay. John Abbey, David Nathan, people like that were working there. And John and Dave, they used to work behind the counter as well. So it was their comic, everything, stuff like that. And I'd got there a couple of times every week, and you'd come back, I'd have X to spend, and I spent X plus a little bit always. And I was buying everything. I was buying a bit of what I didn't know it was Northern then. I was buying a bit of up tempo, a bit of funk, and a bit of sort of fewer slower things as well. So that's how, if you like, the collection started.
Right. Okay.
But it was wonderful. It was up these rickety stairs in Hanway Street, and you go into this tiny room. It was smaller than this room, but it was just records everywhere.
God, and I'm seeing it in my head now. I'm imagining it. It's great.
Well, he was fantastic. The great record shop was in was it Monument Street, which was Dave Godin's shop, Soul City. Yeah. But that had closed a few years before, and this was the place to get records. And Dave was writing for Blues and Soul at the time anyway, so you were getting obviously all his tips. You were reading what he was picking up on, because he was really off the wall. he was happy to talk about politics as he was to talk about music. So he was a very learned guy. And there are two versions of this as well, just to confuse you.
So this isn't the Motown track?
No.
Oh, right. See, I thought it was.
It's an alter.
Are you going to play this sort of stuff tomorrow? Seriously?
Well, I've got a pile of records which I still haven't really sorted out yet, so there's always a chance.
So
You never know, do you?
I thought I was going to get like
We're
a
pending.
little insight into the set that you were going to
I'm
play.
never that organised.
Damn it.
I'll pull out bits and pieces. I've never been one to pick out specific records because I don't think you can. I think certainly the earlier stuff you can think about it, but you never know what people are going to be like.
Yeah, exactly. You never know the people that come in. You know, sometimes they can really surprise you. I get that.
There's plenty of carpet shufflers. You know, there's lots of things that you could play that would be fast enough to dance to. You know.
Oh, this is great. This is so good.
That was a holy grail record when I got it. I must admit that was one of those moments where I thought, you know, come to daddy. It was a special record.
Oh, there's a song that I wanted to ask you about actually. It's one that I danced to on one of my videos, Sweet Pearl. Sweet Pearl. Have you got it? Because it was on the CD that you gave me.
Really?
Yeah,
Do you
that's
know
how
what?
I know it.
Let me just see if I've got one.
It literally took me ages to find it because I lost the track listing to your CD. So it was always like, I think it was like track 7 or something. And I'd always listen to it. Me and my mum would always listen to it in the car because we had the CD in the car. We'd be like, what is it? What is it? And I spent ages trying to find it, you know, typing in all the lyrics, like you mean everything to me. And honestly, it took me about a year after asking loads of people, and then I finally found it. I came across it on Manship, and I was just,
That one?
yes, that one. That's the one.
My life is complete.
Oh god, yeah, I wouldn't know if it wasn't for your CD, honestly.
Oh, I can't turn tie off though. That's the trouble.
You can't turn what off?
Tie off.
Right, okay, right. We'll just wait till it finishes then, and then we'll put on another record, that's fine.
Oh, yeah, this was another example of things perhaps getting slightly more up-tempo, slightly more funky. It was big probably about 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer, 5 or 6 years ago, and only just become affordable to an old guy.
Finally holding Sweet Pearl, You Mean Everything to Me, after a whole year of trying to find it.
There are now lots of small clubs which are keeping the scene going. It's not the big clubs. The big clubs are the ones that play the oldies. They're predictable, and I choose not to go to them. The smaller clubs, Steve Cato does a great club called Different Strokes.
Yeah,
there's loads.
I really want to go. I think it's like the All Night or something, or the All Day in October or something.
You've got lots of things. You've got Carib Soul down in London, which is amazing,
I heard about that as
playing
well.
you know, slightly slower, mid-tempo stuff with a West Indian audience who are fantastic. You've got Soul Kitchen in Tunbridge Wells, John Brown and the boys.
They play like completely different
Sublime
stuff to what you usually hear at all these big hall events.
Yeah, and I think you can. You're not governed by 500 people dancing around their handbags. You're governed by 40, 50, 60 people who actually enjoy you know, the music. They've made the effort to come there.
Because of the music.
Because of
it's
music,
literally
like-minded
all about
people.
the music.
Yeah. And for me, I prefer to do that. And I think going back to when I went to Soul Essence, I remember thinking, oh my God, there's loads of people here who are sad like me. They all want to scratch their chins, they want to listen to a few tunes, have a few beers, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. In fact, it should be part of the national curriculum as far as I'm concerned.
How to stroke your chin.
It's a very, very, but no,
there
seriously,
is an art to it though,
there
isn't there, to do it properly.
There is a great scene to be had out there, and I know Eddie mentioned about some of the clubs that are playing the harder edge stuff. Again, they're quite small, you know, 80, 100, 120 people, but you can play it because you know they're like-minded people there. You're not worried about, oh God, if I play that, am I going to lose the floor? No, not at all. There are some great records that have got like a West Indian beat and feel to them, but I mean, I love that what we call call and response records, you know, where it's a bit like Sam and Dave. It was those great duos that they, you know, one will sing a lead and one will follow up. Sam Cooke, Bring It Home to Me.
Yeah.
you've got a call, you've got an echo. The echo is actually Lou Rawls, although it's uncredited. So it's Lou Rawls
Really?
singing out, yeah.
It's Lou Rawls.
Yeah, Bring It On Back to Me. Yeah, that's Lou Rawls.
Wow.
So-
I had no clue whatsoever that was Lou Rawls.
Wow.
I love Lou Rawls. See You When I Get There.
Yep.
I mean, it might be a really popular kind of.
It was a
one that you
massive.
could try,
It was a massive record.
But I just love that kind of.
He's got one of those voices that could sort of, it's like warm chocolate, isn't it? It's like galaxies.
I've never heard it described like that. That's
But you've
no
got
way
people
of
like him, you've got people like Brooke Benton, you've got certain voices that are just, chocolate. River Hamilton, they were kind of middle of the road singers that did soul stuff,
Absolutely fantastic.
I love stuff like this. I die for stuff like this. I don't know if it's up your alley, but I mean, I just love it.
Oh no, it's absolutely great. You said that you
It's
said
a great
that you
voice.
die for it though.
I die. Yeah. Oh my God.
So if there was a song that you like, if you really loved,
Yeah.
and you only had sort of however much it was in your pocket, and it meant that you couldn't eat for the next month.
I think a lot of us have done that. I've eaten toast without butter for stuff. I've had beans out of a tin. I think I've done all that.
There's such dedication.
No, it's stupidity. And when it's the sort of thing you tell your kids, if ever I find that you've done that, you're never coming home again. But we do stupid things, and it's a legal obsession. No, it's something. Sadly, I've had to sell a collection, and I've had to sell a pile of other records. But that's just the way it is. They're replaceable. Tom's dad, Gavin, said to me, he said, "Paul, never forget," he said, "a record's just 7 inches of plastic with a hole in the middle." That's all it is. However, it can often mean a little bit more than that, So
I think a lot of people would kill you if you ever said that.
well, I think you have to dress it up a bit. That's your base. That's your foundation.
Exactly.
And it kind of goes on top of it, doesn't it?
Of course.
But see, records like this, it's got a very limited audience.
Yeah,
there
I
aren't.
know.
There's not a scene for stuff like this. I was looking for.
I love
there
it.
you go. You'd mentioned Island Soul.
Island Soul.
And this is a prime example of coming across a record that you didn't know what it was, because you've Googled the Dynamics, and there are any number of Dynamics groups, and this little nugget came up, but
I can definitely hear the island in there, definitely.
it's a plaintive sound. It's a bit like, it's not quite reggae. But I think it's Barbados. I think it's from Barbados, I'm not sure. But this is very much what they're playing at Carib Soul and stuff like that.
It's got such a unique sound, hasn't it?
Well,
I've never been to Carib Soul, but I've heard so many good things about it. This is nice. This is really, really nice.
Yeah, I'd have chopped it at 3 minutes, but they've obviously they'd had a bit of a puff, and I think they carried on a bit longer.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's not quite reggae, but they've kind of got that. I don't know what it is in their voice. It's kind of like the tone that they use.
Yeah, exactly. It is, because it's a West Indian tone, and you can hear it in some of the words, how they pronounce them.
It's so strange that records can just tell that sound.
But you see, there was when I was growing up, sort of in the early 70s. I mean, we used to go to the first place I ever went to was a place called the Scar Bar in Tunbridge in 1970. It was at the back of a pub called the George and Dragon, and I told my mum I'd gone to into a Scout disco. So I'd gone with a friend, and we went to the Scar Bar. I was 14, and Arthur Conley was on, and I was blown away. I was quite lucky because I was fairly tall, at that age, and there were no issues.
If you were 14, I'd be
no issues.
Now, 14, you wouldn't get in anywhere.
No. And I was good friends with the lads who played football at school a couple of years above me, and they were all into their Motown. And and that's how I started. Four Tops Greatest Hits Volume 2 was my first album, and that was the mother load for me.
Oh, Four Tops are great. I remember when I was really young, and I was up in Blackpool for a competition, and the Four Tops were kind of like the guests, and they played there. And I wasn't into kind of soul, but I remember watching them. I look back on it, I'm just like, wow, they were actually really good.
The sad thing is all our heroes die, you know, and there's only one original top left.
Exactly,
the same as there's only one original
the ones
temp
that
left.
I saw, they weren't all original, of course,
No.
but you know, just to think, oh, I was really young, and you know, I watched the Four Tops and I didn't even know it. You know, it's kind of like a wasted experience.
Yeah, but deep down the influence, and you know, you draw back on your influences,
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
you? You know, that's something that's not running. That's not necessarily. These are all sort of sweet and deep stuff, and there's some interesting bits and pieces in here. I'm looking for a nice multicoloured label, a bit like this one.
Oh, I love that label.
It's a great label.
Spring Rain was.
Oh, Silvetti, yeah.
Is where I probably first got introduced to that label.
Well, I must admit that I can't believe I'm taking off one of my all-time favourite records to put this on, but there you go. This just shows you how diverse and how different things were. You know, when I was going out, and you know, I was as happy to swing my pants to this as I was to something else. You know, this absolutely bangs.
Oh yeah.
This was, you know, this was 1977, 78.
I thought it would be. It sounds really kind of.
It's
more modern than
the
that.
production that they did at South Soul, you know, Vince Montana, all the Philadelphia boys were on it, you know, all the people that were doing MFSB were also doing stuff like this, and it was magnificent. And I really think I was lucky because the scene diversified, and places like the Ritz in Manchester, obviously the Mecca, were playing disco. This is what basically caused the split between Wigan and the Mecca, was because Ian Levine dared to play stuff like this, you know. But you see, the Mecca was all about being sharp. It was a smart scene. It was about dressing up as well.
Yeah.
It was buying something a bit different. Whereas Wigan was a bit more industrial, if you like, polite.
Right, yeah.
It was a bit more about the fancy dress. It was a bit more about getting off your head, which, you know, whatever. I enjoy both.
Which one, if you had to choose one to go back to,
Yeah.
which one would it be? Black Gold. What?
Without-
Because of this sort of music?
No, because it was smarter.
Right. Okay.
It was cooler. Musically, it was better. The great sound system. It was far more diverse than Wigan.
Right,
It was a bit one-dimensional. And I promise you, at 4:30 in the morning at Wigan, when the yellow bits start falling off the ceiling of nicotine and other stuff, you know, and land on the table and go, you think, do you know what? I can't wait to get in the car to get home.
Oh man.
But you see, hindsight's a great thing. And then you start thinking, do you know what? I saw Jackie Wilson there. I saw Betty Wright there. I heard incredible records for the first time, a bit like you're doing now. You know.
Yeah, I know. Everything is new to me now.
Exactly, and that's why it's such an exciting thing. You know, and that's why people should be less dismissive, perhaps, and give everybody a chance.
I know, it's so exciting. You know, even now, you know, when you hear a record that you've never heard before and that you love, it's just amazing. And you know, some people say, oh yeah, but this is old, but you know, it's new to me.
Exactly. I mean, look how many of the groups nowadays are making old-sounding new music.
Yes,
So
I know. A lot of people
think,
do
well,
look back into the past, don't they?
There must be something they've
take
done
it as
right.
an influence, and
Yeah.
you know, it's influenced so much music over the years, hasn't it? You can just tell.
But this was so different. But it was part of what I did. You know, magnificent. The all-dayers at Blackpool Mecca were incredible. We mentioned the Tavares earlier on. They were extraordinary. You know, these live acts. And I think we're very easy to dismiss these people. But certainly now, when they're dropping like flies, you think, do you know, I'm glad I saw them.
I know.
I mean, the sound, certainly the Ritz, this used to shake the floor. It had the most amazing sprung floor. The whole place used to
Imagine it's
absolutely
that
rock.
beat. Yeah. I love that feeling when, you know, something like this comes comes on, and because it's got such a heavy beat, you can feel it, not just because of the sound system, but because people are literally stomping.
That's the short version. On the 12 it goes on for 3 days, you know, it's just, they were amazing.
Who's in this?
These are a few pictures. I was never one for taking pictures, if I'm honest with you, but I've got a few from various do's, and this is a gentleman called Angelo, and Angelo is responsible for doing all the artwork for the Soul Junction records. He was very good friends with Andy Davis, and they used to do the Soul Bowl stall at Soul Essence. That's me, and that's a young lady called Tracy. So this was at a do, I think probably 75, 76 in London. That's a well-known face on the scene. That's Mr. Randy Cousins. It's all been written before. Randy and a lad called Woofer. This was at Covent Garden.
I was just about to ask, where is it?
This was at Covent Garden, which was an amazing place. Very early 60s. This is pre 60s as well. So you then got an absolute legend, one of the nicest blokes that ever played a soul record. That's Ian Clark. That's Mickey Ritson there. I've got a feeling that might be Tony Rounce as well, who's obviously around as well. This is this is an example of a Wednesday night in a pub in Hammersmith.
That's on a Wednesday night.
Wednesday night, where you had people.
You don't get that anymore.
We had people travelling everywhere. This would have been 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night. A place called OBJ's. I think that's back at Covent Garden again. That's the wonderful.
Is that guy really that tall?
I don't imagine so. That's Terry Davis, who at the time was the manager at Record Corner in Balham. Very, very young and slightly less rotund.
A.D. Crowsdale.
Mr. Crowsdale.
Indeed. God, he's really young there. I don't think I've ever seen a photo of A.D. Crowsdale.
We're all young once. We're all as young as you once.
Are there any photos of you
Clarky
in here?
again. So, yeah, there is, sadly.
Shall I see if I can recognise you? I'll try and point you out if I...
This is on the stage. That's no, I wish. That's on the stage at Yate. So that's Randy, and that's.
Oh, is that Yate? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the Yate reunion.
77. So, I've posted this one up before, but this is outside Record Corner in Balham.
God, look at you. That is you, isn't it?
We've actually purchased. Yeah, well, we were always stupid. So I've got the 7s, and the other ones have got the albums. But happy days. That's me looking like a poodle. 1973.
God, you got really long hair there.
Yeah, I know. We all used to have long hair then. It just drifts away. I love
the jacket you're wearing.
It'll be fashionable again one day. And that's my good friend Barry Quinnell, who's still around to these days. Fantastic collector, wonderful collector of reggae as well. That's at I think it's at the Queen's Hotel in Brighton. We were doing regular dues there. In fact, he's playing a record on Ireland. That's sad I am.
Oh, that's a good eye.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, the boys used to come down from London, Randy and AD and Tony Ellis and all that lot. They always used to come down. And yeah, that's me. A tad moist. 1974. Looking like a god. I think I must have bought a shirt size too small. But yeah, that's how it used to be. That's how we used to be.
Very handsome young man.
41 years ago.
Very handsome young man.
Like a poodle. We'd been talking about some of the island music earlier on, and one of my really big favourites is it's a slightly up-tempo crossover thing that I've had for a little while now, but it's from the Bahamas, and there's a great story about the guy when he recorded it. What he used to do is he used to go from island to island on his speedboat, and he'd sell the records off the back of his speedboat to help fund his gigs.
Oh wow!
So he's done a lot of reggae stuff, but this was a record. He recorded it twice. First it was as a beat ballad, but he did a 70s version of it, and this is the one that I prefer. Both sides are great, but if we're talking about favourite records, this would be right up there at the moment. So give it a spin.
Press play.
Press play.
I didn't know it was this record. I love it.
So this is something I've been lucky enough to have for a few years, and it's got kind of picked up on plays recently.
I might have to request this for Seriously Soulful.
I'll put it in the box then, shall I?
I think you should.
Because there's the dancer in you that's never going to go, isn't there? There'll always be something, you know, and that's how it should be. You've got to have this mix, I think. You can't just be one-dimensional. You can like your sweet and deep stuff, but you're always going to want to shuffle, aren't you? And this was...
Oh, this always makes me want to shuffle.
Yeah, it is a cheeky little shuffler, isn't it?
I'm sorry, we need to play your favourite records, but the thing is that you've got like so many of my favourite records that we're sidetracking.
If I was going to sort of pull out a record that I play, for example, an evening and play at home, this would probably be my all-time favourite, especially as I know that Claire rather likes this as well. And we played this at the weekend in Barcelona, and it seemed to go down rather well. But it's one of those records that was massive on the modern scene.
This is what I think it is. I'm pretty sure this got played at Cleethorpes. I think I got introduced to it at Cleethorpes.
Possibly.
Modern Room.
Yeah, I mean it was probably the early 80s, mid 80s. It was huge, and it still goes down the storm.
Oh, I love this sauce. Yes.
This guy called Al Johnson, who did all the writing, arranging. He was out of Washington. He was one of the big faces, and it's a great story about Al Johnson turning up at a gig in London in a shell suit. He was a big lover of the shell suit. But yeah, this is a special record.
That voice is so soulful. See, when I listen, when this sort of stuff gets played out, you know, I can go for hours, you know, just on the dance floor, you know, just not even really dancing, you know, I'll just step from side to side, but it's about, you know, you've got your eyes shut, you're in a massive dance hall with all these people that, not even a dance hall, usually it's quite intimate, isn't it, you know, on this dance floor with all these people around you that are loving it too. You shut your eyes, you hear people singing, and it's just one of those records.
Well, that's the difference probably between a dance scene, or no, the northern scene and the modern scene. It was a bit more about the actual music itself, a bit more about the vocals. I mean, my favourite, you know, voice is David Ruffin, because he's got such an expressive voice. You know, he's just up there. But then amongst that, like, you've also got the likes of Chuck Jackson. You've got Luther Vandross, great voice. I'd love to have heard him singing in a 60s group, because he would have absolutely killed it.
Oh,
you know, proper voices. But this is for me. This is a very special record, and Claire loves it as well, so that makes it even better.
I'm literally lost for words on this, and I love it so much. But I'm pretty sure I got introduced to this at Cleethorpes. It was one of those late records. It was late at night or early in the morning in the Modern Room, because I literally spent most of my time in the Modern Room.
Well, it's different, isn't it? So, I mean, the way that they run the Modern Room there, I stopped going for a few years because it was getting a little bit housey, and I'm not a big lover of the house, not all the time. And what they do on a Saturday afternoon at Cleethorpes now, they do their Back to the Village thing, which is Terry Jones, Ivor Jones, Chris Forrest, Dave Halsall, all that lot doing a gig which based on an old place in London called the Norfolk Village, which Terry Jones ran for many years.
I don't know if they did that this year.
Yeah, it's certainly on Saturday afternoon.
I was there on a Saturday afternoon, but I didn't know that was it.
Back to the Village. That's what it's called.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it was a one. I actually never went to the Village, which is, you know, almost heresy, because it was a London gig. It's in my dark years.
I don't know.
It was a pub.
It was just
a pub which Terry DJ'd at. There was one before called the Spread Eagle, which I think he owned, but the Village was where records like this were first broken.
Wow. I was there on a Saturday afternoon and I didn't even know that.
Did you enjoy it? That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. I think that was probably, apart from Eddie and Christina's set, which was on the Friday night / morning, because it went on to about 5 o'clock.
Breakfast time, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. And then we went to go get some breakfast. That was probably one of my favourite parts of the weekender as well. I mean, I just absolutely loved the Modern Room. It was just the most fantastic. It was the best weekend of my life, like hands down.
But it's opening up another door, isn't it? It's like everything. There are so many. You see, when I first started going, there were 2 or 3 weekenders. You know, they just weren't. I mean, weekenders are such a recent.
It's a regular thing now. They've got St Ives this weekend, and then Bridlington was the weekend before, I think, something like that. There's so many now.
And Whitby last weekend.
Yeah, I know.
You know, there are so many, and I just don't think it gives you a chance. I mean, if you look at the situation, there are so many weekends, so many opportunities to go out, but I'd say how many of them actually play what you want to hear? Mm-hmm. Do they have a small room?
Exactly,
playing it,
yeah.
and do the number of people that want to listen to it go to it, so it looks like it's an undersubscribed room, which is always sad. You don't want to go anywhere and it not be busy, do you?
No, well, I don't know, it depends the sort of people that are there, because, you know, it can be not be busy, but it can be the people that you absolutely love and adore, and, you know, like your
helps
family.
with an atmosphere, doesn't it? And that's the great thing about going back to the European ones, rather than sound boring, but that they do have a very different attitude. There's no politics. There's no history.
No, there's not. And I've never been to. I went to.
Go to Bilbao. Soul for Real, Bilbao. That's the place to be. That's what it is.
Right. Okay.
Alex Sabinas and Aitor Lombard. They run it, and they are the business. Thursday, Friday, Saturday with a live gig, and then the Sunday. So we had Philip Mitchell 2 years ago. We had Barbara Mason last year. They've got Mike James Kirkland this year. It's just special. It's just special. And last year the temperatures in the 30s. It was ridiculous.
Oh my God! How do you dance in that heat?
I stood outside and drank wine all night.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I love Spain. So that just sounds like my idea of heaven.
Well, so you've got Barcelona, which Edu puts on regularly. You know, there are so many great gigs. You've obviously now got the Swedish one, which is a combination of the afternoon sessions and then the evening all-nighters, and you just have to look at the lineup at the last one. It was fantastic, you know, all the people that went over there. So I found spreading your wings a little bit and trying to go, you know, be a bit more selective.
Exactly, be a bit more selective. I really want to get more to those European all-nighters / weekenders. I know that, is it Hamburg? No, because Bamberg's a weekender, and then there's Hamburg that's in October, which is just an all-nighter, isn't it? It's not a weekender or anything, and I think me and a friend are going to really try and get to that. I think
there's a couple of there's several weekenders in Germany. They used to do one in Hamburg, which was called Baltic Soul, which was right across the board as well, but that's finished now. Great live acts. That was huge.
That sounds so good. Shame it's finished.
They put them on. They know how to promote these things, you know.
Yeah, well, they've just got such more of an open mind, you know. You'll hear stuff that you didn't even know was a genre.
No.
And that's what I love about it, is
you just hear good music.
You'll be introduced to something that could lead you onto something even better than what you're listening to already.
Which takes you right back to my entry in 1972 with the Right Track. You know, that was my way in. At the time, I didn't know what the hell it was.
Exactly.
You know, I didn't recognise it from Motown. It wasn't Philly, and I'm thinking, what's all this about? And that's where the entrance came. You know, something as simple as that.
I think that's exactly what these European all-nighters / weekenders are doing right. Is they are giving you that, they're opening doors for you, and that's what I love, and that's why I really, really want to get there. Yeah. This is the last record.
Well, it seems we're out of time, doesn't it?
I know, we're out of time, but is this your all-time favourite?
No, I'm not allowed to play my all-time favourite record because it's a real wrist slasher, and I'm not allowed to play it in the house.
It doesn't matter, come on.
My favourite record of all time, I stand accused, is The Drifter by Ray Pollard. So everybody knows it. It's a great record.
It is a great record.
I'll take it to my grave. I'm not
ashamed.
I just think that maybe you want to hear something a bit more lively.
Right. We'll
Hence
hear
my reason for putting something from Detroit, just to finish things up and say, this is the sort of stuff that at our very, very high-class gigs that we run called Seriously Soulful. And I just happen to have a flyer here, Purveyors of the Good Grooves. But no, Ben and I do this, and it's a bit of fun. We do it 3 or 4 times a year. We get people that come out to have a bit of fun, listen to some music. It's on for 8 hours, costs you nothing to get in. Hey, this is the sort of up-tempo stuff that we'll play later on in the evening, and gets the old feet a tapping, as they say.
So this came out of Detroit?
Yeah, came out of Detroit.
I wouldn't have guessed.
This is
Wow.
it's proper, you know, what I call proper crossover stuff. This is as fast as I can even think now, never alone dance.
So you're gonna play this tomorrow night?
No, probably not.
Aww.
Save it. Yeah, I'll save it for another day.
Save it for another day. This is lovely. I've never heard it before.
It's a 21st generation, and Hey James, for whatever reason, it came out on two different labels that look almost the same, but they both sound the same to me.
I can't wait. I can't wait for Seriously Soulful tomorrow. If you're gonna play this sort of stuff, all the stuff that you played today.
I've still got piles of records everywhere. I don't know what I'm doing. I've wasted 3 hours this afternoon talking nonsense.
You better start getting on it then. Start getting organised.
It's been great fun.
It has been great fun. I'm so happy that you've let us come in and
My
sift through your
pleasure.
record boxes,
Yeah.
and you've played some absolutely cracking records and all of my favourite records.
Just don't give away the address.
Don't.
It just needs to be shared.
I know. That's what they need.
This thing about keeping the faith, forget about it. You know, spread it.
Spread the faith. Spread the faith. Share the faith. This is a cracking record to end on.
That's a nice one to finish on, isn't it? It's quite gentle. And you know, people killing themselves at the end of the Drifter anyway.
Well, it gets played all the time at the end of rugby. It's the ending record.
Exactly.
But I love it when, you know, a lot of people don't like it when they play slow records at the end, but I love it because it really allows me to kind of debrief in a way.
Yeah.
It's soul night for me. It's really nice to have something smooth or just slow, just because it kind of allows me to come to terms with the fact that a really good night is ending.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And I think you need closure on the evening.
Yes,
And when you
exactly.
finish up with a banging tune, you think, I want more, I still want more.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you
I
can't.
always
So
feel that.
That's, I think we'd probably get away with that.
I'd say you'd get away with that. That was absolutely fantastic, and I'm so happy that I've been able to come around and listen to all these great tunes. So
It's been my pleasure.
I'll give you a hug.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh my
I'll give you a
goodness.
hug. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for
Oh,
coming around.
that was
And thanks
great.
for the cameraman. She's all right, isn't she? Camera person, I should say.
Camera, lovely.
Camera lovely. You know, we said there was just time for one more record. Mm-hmm. Well, how about we do one more? Because I'm not into cover-ups, but bizarrely, this record, which is like a £2 or £3 record now, value, but it's worth £1 million in soul. This was covered up by some clown, as I think it was covered up as Little Louis Brown. And in fact, when you hear it, you'll realise that there's only one bloke that sounds like that, and that's Mr. Wilson Pickett.
Oh God, not this old chestnut.
It's been said 100 times before.
Ben specifically told me to say
What
it to
a
you.
chestnut, though.
It is, isn't it?
This is a golden chestnut. Just because
golden chestnut.
it's a golden chestnut because
Polished and all.
no, it's got those little knurly bits on the outside still, because it is a nugget. It's a proper soul record that I would pay to go and hear music this, because it's got everything. It's got a great voice, it's got a bit of a beat, and it costs nothing, but it's worth £1 million.
In soul. And worth £1 million in soul. I love that saying.
That's my philosophy.
It's so
in
true
soul
with a
music.
lot of records that are £3, £5, and they are just worth £1 million.
Exactly.
That's such a brilliant saying.
You just got these little mannerisms that when you're DJing, you kind of throw it in, don't
Yeah,
you?
exactly. You do the kind of wow.
Something like that. And there's people like Bobby Womack, people like Wilson Pickett, who when you go something, he just goes, you know he's building up,
Yeah.
you know he's building up,
Yeah,
and
you know.
suddenly you go,
Oh, that's so true.
that's what
So
soul does, that's what soul does for you.
That's soul right there. That, ladies and gentlemen, that is soul right there. Ben said to me, he texted me this morning and said, your main response to anything that Paul plays you should be, oh God, not that old chestnut?
Yeah.
Is it something that he says to you a lot?
No, I just think there's obvious envy there, isn't there? You know, he's very jealous. You know, it's a side of Ben we don't often see, but that jealous side, you know, he can get a bit bitchy sometimes.
Well, I did actually said that I would ask you about the challenges of co-promoting a night with someone who's got a far superior record collection.
Yeah, well, that's obvious. He has got a far superior record collection, and I bow to his greater collection. But then I haven't had to pimp myself to get it, have I? You know.
That was. I probably couldn't ask for a better answer.
I don't have a red door outside of my house, do I? You know.